dead in Hollywood.
I think every American should be watching this. I guess we got about 38 minutes to go, so won't be long now.
Beverly Hills emergency.
Yes, police.
What's the problem? What's the problem?
Someone killed my parents.
What? Who? Are they still there?
Yes.
The people...
No.
Were they shot?
Yes.
They were shot?
Yes.
Is the person still there?
What happened? We have units around. What happened? Who shot who?
I don't hear anything.
You came home and found who shot?
My mom and my dad.
Your mom and dad?
My mom and my dad.
Okay, we're on our way over there with an ambulance.
Okay, I gotta go.
This was the Menendez family home, where Lyle and Eric Menendez killed their parents, Jose and Kitty. It was a crime that shocked the nation.
People in this quiet, exclusive neighborhood remained surprised at the murders.
In a bizarre, only in Hollywood twist, a baby shower was thrown for Nicole Simpson in this house before the Menendez family moved in. By June of 1994, the Beverly Hills brothers had been in custody for over 4 years. On Friday, June 17, 1994, Eric Menendez was ordered to scrub down a neighboring cell. On his hands and knees, Eric cleaned while watching the Bronco chase live on TV, just like everyone else. But unlike everyone else, Eric was about to get a front row seat to the aftermath of the chase, because at 10:30 that night, a group of deputies delivered Simpson to the spotless empty cell next to Eric's. After the Bronco chase, Simpson was arrested and brought here to the L.A. County Jail. The first night was rough, and according to Eric, Simpson could be heard crying and moaning all night. And by Saturday morning, the weight of his ex-wife's death consumed a despondent Simpson. Over the next few weeks, Eric explained to Simpson the ins and outs of life behind bars. Simpson confided in Eric that he was worried that his reputation had been tarnished. Eric would later say that Simpson was treated like royalty. Deputies would stop by to ask for the football star's autograph. So this is my OJ Simpson autograph. A friend of mine got it for me for my birthday this past year, and I just think it's so crazy because he signed a picture of the Bronco chase. And we all know that even though you can't see it in the photo, he's holding a gun to his head in the backseat. I just think it's so crazy, so OJ. And Simpson dined on whatever the officers ate, like roast beef, pork chops, and burritos. Guards let him use his cell phone whenever he wanted, and left his cell doors open most of the time. Everyone there was in awe of Simpson. After a week, Eric was moved to a different cell, and he never saw Simpson again. Court TV had a smash hit by airing the Menendez brothers' trial live on TV. And as it turned out, the brothers' trial was just the warm-up act. 2 days later, Simpson pled.
Absolutely 100% not guilty.
Judge Lance Ito was assigned to the case. Like many of his decisions, Ito allowing cameras in the courtroom was controversial. He faced criticism for seeming to enjoy the press and for allowing too many sidebars and recesses.
It's been a bad day today.
During the trial, it came to light that Ito's wife had been Detective Mark Furman's superior officer. Furman would go on to become the most controversial figure at the trial.
And you say on your oath that you have not addressed any black person as a or spoken about black people as in the past 10 years, Detective Furman.
That's what I'm saying, sir.
Anything out of a mouth for the first 5 or 6 sentences is a lie.
And the first thought is, okay, this is OJ Simpson's ex-wife. He's a big celebrity. We should tell him about this in person so he doesn't have to hear about it on the news. How do we get a hold of him? Well, Mark Furman, the racist LAPD cop, is there. He's like, oh, I've actually been to OJ's house in 1985 on a domestic violence call. I'll take you guys up there right now. There's no answer at the door, so Furman hops over the fence. He's unsupervised for 13 minutes, so that's maybe when he has time to plant evidence. Now, Furman is, of course, the big curveball at the end of the trial. The audio tapes of him practicing dialogue for a script he's writing, where he's giving an example of how cops really talk.
We start to choke because a bunch of have a bunch of these organizations in the South End, and because all were choked out and killed 12 in 10 years. Leave that old station, man. It's got the smell of that have been beaten and killed in there for years.
He had lied under oath, he had committed perjury, and so now when they put him on the stand again, he has to plead the Fifth Amendment to prevent from incriminating himself. And when you do that, it's not selective, it's for anything they ask you. So they're like, have you ever planted evidence before? I plead the Fifth. Have you ever used the N-word before? I plead the Fifth. And the jury's like, okay, obviously he's lying, this is a big cover-up, we have to let OJ go.
Ron and Nicole were butchered. Do any of you believe otherwise? This is not now the Furman trial. Are we all fools? Do they take us all for morons?
District Attorney Gil Garcetti, father of former Mayor Eric Garcetti, elected to file charges in Downtown L.A. as opposed to Santa Monica, the jurisdiction where the crimes took place.
If you have any questions, I will attempt to address them, but it's going to be difficult.
The Los Angeles Superior Court then decided to hold the trial in Downtown LA instead of the Santa Monica courthouse due to safety concerns stemming from the 1995 Northridge earthquake. These decisions may have ultimately affected the outcome of the criminal trial. Here in Santa Monica, where the civil trial would ultimately take place, the jury pool was educated, high income, and more likely to accept the validity of the DNA testing. In LA, the jury pool was less educated, lower income, receptive to claims of racially motivated fraud by the police, and contained more African Americans.
One of the strategies of the defense is they're trying to paint the LAPD as all these racist cops who frame black people. The LA riots had just happened, so there's recent precedents for police misconduct and not being handled well.
Come in here and trash the place.
You put your hand behind your back one more time like that, and I will hurt you.
Hey, what kind of statement are you making?
America has a problem.
Our people have suffered.
So many people's lives go up in flames.
Civil rights, but the right to be a human being, and it has been justified by a jury, shows us that we can't get justice in America. How many more Rodney King does it have to be? How many more Natasha Harlem does it have to be?
Groups of youths are on the streets in South Central Los Angeles. There are reports that they are throwing rocks and bottles.
Let's get the latest on the situation now and go to Newscopter 13.
Jim, you're looking at a live picture. There's been a mini riot at this location. Tom's liquor store has been looted at this point.
Racial tensions between the LAPD and the black community here in LA had been boiling over for generations before finally exploding in the summer of 1992 right here in the intersection of Normandy and Florence. This was the epicenter of the LA riots. The unrest began in South Central on April 29th after a jury acquitted the 4 police officers who beat Rodney King. It was the last straw for some in the black community who had felt targeted by the LAPD. The riots were on everybody's mind when on January 24th, 1995, the OJ Simpson Murder Trial opened here at the Criminal Courts Building in downtown LA. Other notable trials that have taken place here include the murder trials of Richard Ramirez the Night Stalker, Phil Spector, the Grim Sleeper serial killer, and Dr. Sleep himself, Conrad Murray, Michael Jackson's doctor. Relations weren't much better between prosecutor Christopher Darden and defense attorney Johnny Cochran.
The second voice that you heard sounded like the voice of a black man, is that correct?
Sustained. Sustained.
Of course not, I don't.
Wait!
But this statement about whether somebody sounds black or white is racist, and I resent it, and that's why I stood and objected. And I think it's totally improper. In America, at this time, in 1995, we have to hear this and endure this.
This is the witness's statement, and if the statement is racist, then he is the racist, not me. Okay? And clearly, I mean, but that's what you're suggesting, and that's what, has created a lot of problems for my family and myself. Statements that you make about me and race, Mr. Cochran.
Well, you
and
stop
I would indicate to the court.
Wait. I'm going to take a recess right now because I'm so mad at both of you guys. I'm about to hold both of you in contempt. We'll take 15. If I see this conduct again from either of you two,
Fears grew that race riots, similar to those in '92, would erupt across L.A. if Simpson was convicted. Back in 1994, most white people thought the former football star was guilty, while roughly the same proportion of black people thought Simpson was innocent.
These white people, excuse me, but that's the way I feel about this here situation, trying to set the brother up.
The racial gap in public opinion was one of the many elements in the case that showed race was as important as glove size and forensic evidence. Simpson's dream team was accused of playing the race card.
And the defense wants to squirm away from that fact by playing the race card.
She talks a lot about this idea of a race card, and we take personal umbrage to that.
Details on their field trip to OJ's home, where the majority African-American jury thought they got a glimpse of his life.
We took all of his white friends down, put all of his black people up.
If we had had a Latin jury, we would have had a picture of him in a sombrero. There would have been a mariachi band out front. We would have had a piñata at the upper staircase.
Simpson hired a team of high-profile defense lawyers, initially led by Robert Shapiro, and then subsequently by Johnny Cochran, who at that point was known for police brutality in civil rights cases. The team included noted defense attorney F. Lee Bailey, Robert Kardashian, and Alan Dershowitz. Simpson's dream team was so good that they managed to keep his confession away from the jurors. On November 13, 1994, former NFL player and pastor Rosie Greer visited Simpson in jail. Sergeant Jeff Stewart, a guard at the jail, overheard Simpson confess to Greer. While Simpson and Greer chatted by phone in a one-man visitation room separated by thick glass, Stewart sat at his desk with his back to Greer 3 feet away. Suddenly, Stewart heard this thwacking sound of a phone slamming, and then Simpson shouted,
"I didn't mean to do it. I'm sorry."
This concludes our broadcast day.
Greer pleaded with Simpson to come clean and tell somebody. Later that evening, supervisors told Stewart that Simpson was cursing him while being escorted back to his cell, ranting about a deputy falsely claiming to have heard his confession. Because Stewart hadn't told anybody, he figured Simpson was just trying to cover his tracks. Ito ultimately ruled that the conversation was inadmissible, protected because of clergy penitent privilege.
I'm here for you!
The jury of 8 women and 4 men, 7 black, 4 white, and 1 Hispanic, never got to hear this evidence. Over the course of the trial, 10 were dismissed for any number of reasons, and by the end of the trial, only 4 of the original jurors remained. Lead prosecutor Marsha Clark was convinced that the more women she could get on the jury, the better chances for conviction. She believed that women would side with a victim of domestic violence.
We want a verdict that's based on the evidence. We want a fair and just verdict.
Clark had to learn the hard way that race issues and racial solidarity will often trump gender issues.
It's not about race. I happen to be black. He happens to be black. These men happen to be white. What difference does that make? We're all still Americans.
The jury chose to make a statement against racism rather than one against domestic violence.
African-American women had been some of my best jurors on previous cases, even when the defendant was an African-American. There was just a way, an easy way I had, that I could talk to them.
Trial simulations.
The one you never saw on camera.
Marcia was not received positively.
Marsha Clark, every black woman, bitch.
When they had the mock jury, the mock trial, and some of the comments came back about you, about maybe being really hard or tough, what did you think when you heard some of that?
I was very surprised. The balance of them said good things. So, you know, the media takes one kernel and blows it up into a huge bowl of popcorn.
No matter what you do, Judge, you will be criticized because there is an appearance created, and it's a no-win situation.
That's pretty much par for every day, isn't it?
Yes, I agree.
Clark herself endured an unbelievable amount of sexism and unwarranted scrutiny during the trial. It didn't matter how many hours Clark spent prepping for the case. As soon as she walked into the courtroom, all eyes were on her hair.
Body, face, warrior, triple threat.
The media examined her looks the way the jury examined the case.
This hairstyle, when she straightened her curly hair, got better reviews.
It's short, it's sassy, it's sophisticated.
And it wasn't just a sexist media. The defense was sexist.
We certainly aren't going to yell at Your Honor and become hysterical. We would,
I
just point out...
that characterization,
okay,
Your Honor. That kind of personal attack is very improper and inappropriate. The court knows that it was simply advocacy. I'm not yelling at anyone. And for Mr. Cochran to make that kind of sexist remark, hysterical, I take great umbrage at it. And I think the court should not countenance that kind of behavior.
I don't.
She finished?
During the trial, Clark was in the middle of a bitter custody dispute with her ex-husband. On February 24th, 1995, Judge Ito scheduled court to run late to hear from Simpson's maid. Clark couldn't do it. She had to pick up her children from her ex or risk losing custody.
I'm not arguing with the court's authority to do that, but, Your Honor, I guess I can't be here. And if the court had informed me...
Ms. Clark, I'm sorry. I apologize to you. I had forgotten that problem.
It was Clark against a poor Salvadorian maid who wanted nothing more than to go back to El Salvador the following morning.
Good evening.
That I wanted to leave. I don't want to be here any longer. All these reporters have destroyed my life.
Simpson's maid wasn't the only reluctant celebrity to come out of the trial. The trial made overnight sensations of some unlikely individuals, many who are still recognizable today.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, the moment you've been waiting for. Kato Kaelin.
Some, like OJ's housemate Kato Kaelin, was less reluctant to cash in on his newfound fame. The public loved Kato, and Kato loved the public.
You a little bit nervous today?
Feel great. He appeared in a number of reality TV shows, including Celebrity Boot Camp, Give Me My Reality Show, and Celebrity Big Brother, just to name a few.
You ever taken acting class? Have you taken acting class?
My show is called Kato Kaelin's 16th Minute. I give people with 50 minutes of fame an extra minute of fame.
He also released a line of pajama wear called Kato's Potatoes for the couch potato lifestyle.
I forgot to turn off the jacuzzi. My opinion is, I think he's guilty. Can I prove it? Absolutely not.
In the mid-'80s, soap operas were a huge staple of television.
This case is a circus, and they've made it a circus.
When the trial began, networks received hate mail for interrupting people's soaps for the trial.
Bitch!
But all the people who watched soaps got addicted to the trial and were upset when it ended.
This is a blockbuster. This is a bombshell. This is perhaps the biggest thing that's happened in any case in this country in this decade.
Clark later said that people would come up to her on the street after the trial ended and say, "God, I loved your show." Like all good shows, it ended too soon for some. For others, the end couldn't come soon enough.
We all wanted to believe that our image of him was right. And we all know that we never knew him exactly, but we kind of felt like we did. It's really kind of hard to have to believe that the man we saw in the movies and the commercials could do this. And the fact that he did doesn't mean he wasn't a great football player. It doesn't mean he never did a good thing in his life. Nothing takes that away. It's still here. It'll always be here. But so will the fact that he committed these murders. And even though it's a hard thing, still it cannot mean that you let a guilty person go free. He had strength and he had weaknesses. And it's his weakness that brought us here today. And it's his weakness, that's why we're here, and Ron and Nicole are not. Ron and Nicole, they're speaking to you. They're speaking to you.
Hello? He's back. Please. Okay, what does he look like? He's OJ Simpson. I think you know his record. Can you just take somebody over here? Hey, what is he doing there? He's just drove up again. He just drove me over. Wait a minute, what kind of car is he in? He's in a white Bronco. But first of all, he broke the back door down to get in. Okay, wait a minute, what's your name? Nicole Simpson. Okay, is he the sportscaster or whatever? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Wait a minute, we're sending the police. What is he doing? Is he threatening you? He's fucking going nuts. Okay, has he threatened you in any way, or is he just harassing you? You're going to hear him in a minute. He's about to go in.
Simpson declined to take the stand, but Judge Ito allowed Simpson to make a statement directly to the jury.
A lot more to than Ms. Clark has of their integrity, and that they will find, as the record stands now, that I did not, could not, and would not have committed this crime. I have 4 kids, 2 kids I haven't seen in a year.
Give me a big hug. Come on, give me a big one, big squeeze.
He hasn't seen his kids In a year, he's seen at least 2. I will never see my son again.
It's still OJ Simpson. It's no disguise. It's no disguise. It makes no sense. It doesn't fit. If it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
That you will conscientiously consider and weigh all the evidence, apply the law as I have instructed you, and reach a just verdict regardless of the consequences.
Stunning just about everyone, the jury reached its verdict after 4 hours of deliberations. The verdicts were sealed overnight and read at 10 a.m. the next day.
On this shift, we'll take you right through the verdict.
The jury in the OJ Simpson case has reached a verdict.
Mr. Simpson has now come back to the courtroom.
I was in my high school drama class, and our drama teacher wheeled in a TV so we could watch it live, because she said it was history in the making. And everyone was so shocked by the verdict, but keep in mind, I went to a mostly all-white school in Arlington, Texas, so of course everybody was shocked. And it wasn't until later you start studying what was going on just underneath the surface. President Bill Clinton, who allegedly played golf with Simpson 3 weeks before the murders, was briefed on security measures if rioting were to occur nationwide.
The only people who heard all the evidence were the people who were sitting in the jury box. And in terms of the way Americans see the world differently generally based on their race, that troubles me. I think the only answer to that is for us to spend more time listening to each other and try to put ourselves in each other's shoes and understand why we see the world in different ways, and keep trying to overcome that.
The LAPD had more than 100 police officers on horseback surrounding the perimeter of the criminal courts building.
All right, Mr. Simpson, would you please stand and face the jury?
At 10:07 a.m. on Tuesday, October 3rd, 1995, the verdict was read out loud on live TV to more than 100 million viewers.
It is shortly before noon Chicago time, and history is in the making. By the time you all see this, you will already know the OJ verdict.
1-1. We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant Orenthal James Simpson not guilty of the crime of murder in violation of Penal Code Section 187A, a felony upon Nicole Brown Simpson, a human being, as charged in count 1 of the information. We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant Orenthal James Simpson not guilty of the crime of murder in violation of Penal Code Section 187A, a felony upon Ronald Lyle Goldman, a human being, as charged in count 2 of the information.
The defendant having been acquitted of both charges, he is ordered transported to an appropriate sheriff's facility and released forthwith. All right, we'll stand in recess.
Oh my word.
I think he was shocked. He was definitely stunned. I mean, you could look at his face and see it. Known him my entire life. I know that, like, he was floored that that was the verdict.
Coffins fooled the mindless mass.
Everybody that I came in contact with at the jail told me I was going home from the moment Mark Furman got off the stand. You may have did it, you may not have did it, but you're going home. The minute the jury knows these cops are lying, and they're lying, they do not convict if they think a police officer's lying.
I'd also like to thank the lawyers on our prosecution team. I am honored to have
last June 13th, 94 was the worst nightmare of my life. This is the second. I will forever be proud of my son.
Back at Rockingham with helicopters overhead, Simpson returned home for the first time since his arrest over a year ago. He celebrated his freedom with family and friends. Here he is, hugging his best friend and driver of that Bronco, Al Cowlings.
Prosecution team, let the killers get away.
In a statement after your acquittal in the criminal trial, you vowed to dedicate your life and resources to find the, quote, real killers. People want to know, what are you doing, what have you done to find the, quote, unquote, real killers?
That's why they call me Juice, right here. They call me Juice, the Juice.
How's your investigation going?
Well, you know, we got information, but once again, we need help from LAPD.
You have people looking for the real killers. How do you explain that all the evidence so far points just to you? We have not seen one shred of evidence that points anywhere else. Right, well, then can you give us that evidence?
There have been alternate theories and suspects, but no plausible alternative theory has emerged since the trial. Probably the most popular theory is that Simpson's oldest son, Jason, committed the murders.
People are always like, oh, they had so much evidence, how'd they drop the ball? We really overestimate the LAPD, because from the Black Dahlia to Marilyn Monroe, Robert Kennedy, take your pick, there's a notorious B.I.G., there's a long history of these high-profile deaths happening in Los Angeles, and then they're poorly investigated, and there's lingering questions for decades, and everyone thinks it's a big conspiracy.
The three major factors that played a role in Simpson's acquittal, in my opinion, was the testimony of Detective Mark Furman.
If I never existed.
DNA, which you would have thought helped the prosecution's case.
They didn't do the DNA collection until a few days after the murders. DNA was kind of a new thing to be used in criminal trials. Really sloppy investigation, too. One of the criminologists, this was only the third crime scene she had ever been to. So it was just tons of mistakes were made. The jury really had no problem believing the defense. They later said that they didn't listen to any of the DNA evidence. They thought it was either planted or made up or just bogus science.
Our heiress letter license, style number 70263.
And of course, the bloody glove, which gave us the most iconic moment of the entire trial. It would also prove to be the prosecution's biggest misstep.
Here it is! No, Nicole and Ron! There is no justice! No, I've been arrested. Support the law when it's in your favor. I've been arrested too. You've been in jail. He bought a knife! He bought a knife! You idiots! He bought an effing knife! It's the why did he buy a knife?
In 1996, the parents of both Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman filed a civil suit against Simpson for wrongful death. This judge would not allow cameras in the courtroom.
Look at OJ, you can't hide! We charge you with homicide! OJ, you're a murderer! OJ, you're a murderer! OJ, you're a murderer! You're a murderer!
The jury was not sequestered, the defense was prohibited from alleging racism by the LAPD, additional evidence of domestic violence was presented, and over 30 pre-94 photos of Simpson wearing Bruno Magli shoes were shown. The very shoe Simpson said he never owned. The very shoe that made the shoe prints leading from the crime scene to the back alley.
If Bruno Magli makes shoes that look like the shoes they had in court that's involved in this case, I would have never worn those ugly-ass shoes.
This time, Simpson testified, but he lied several times on the stand, but it didn't matter. Ultimately, the jury found him liable for the murders and awarded Nicole and Ron's family $33.5 million.
Guilty! Guilty! Guilty!
Simpson then filed for bankruptcy and relocated to Florida in order to protect his pension from being seized. The once football great couldn't stay out of trouble even in Florida.
Okay.
Simpson being arrested for road rage. What are you going to do? Kill me and my kids?
He looks forward to fighting these charges, proving his innocence.
I cut you off. What do you mean? It was like no traffic on the street.
The defendant is not guilty.
In 2001, the FBI raided Simpson's house investigating ecstasy smuggling. Another time, Simpson called 911 on his girlfriend, Nicole lookalike Christy Brody, who he accused of attacking him. No charges were filed.
You beat up? Nah, look at me, do I look beat up?
Later that same year, Brody called 911 on Simpson, who she said broke into her condo. Again, no charges were filed. Simpson would spend the next few years roaming aimlessly through a bleak media landscape, searching for the high of his glory days. And a lot of the time, it was really embarrassing.
But the availability of women now is more than it's ever been in my life.
I've never personally shaken hands with a murderer. It's good to see you.
Thank you, very nice.
Doesn't that hurt your feelings?
No.
And uncomfortable to watch.
I mourn, and I'm still mourning for the rest of my life. I'll mourn, but I should have the right to go outside. I enjoy golf. I should have the right to play golf.
It's God-given.
And sometimes funny.
Go away for a little while.
Go where? Whether they want me to go to Africa.
You certainly wouldn't want to go back to Africa.
because you've tried to step away, if you will, from your quote-unquote blackness.
Are you capable of killing somebody?
You know, I would say no.
Asshole! Asshole!
You murdered Nicole. That's why we don't
I didn't get along
along.
because Nicole was afraid you were going to have sex with me.
Oh,
That's why we didn't get
please.
along.
Hey, Twitter world, this is yours truly.
I think it was a bigger feat to break 2,000 yards in one season or slice 2 necks in one night.
I'm having a little trouble, Kevin, hearing you.
OJ Simpson is under arrest in Las Vegas
In connection with an alleged armed robbery.
A group of men led by Simpson broke into a room in the Palace Station Hotel and stole sports memorabilia at gunpoint.
You can steal my yourself. Don't let nobody out here.
Yeah, we were just robbed at gunpoint by OJ Simpson. Can you send the police here, please?
My glasses come on at 4 o'clock.
3 days later, on September 16, 2007, Simpson was arrested.
Basically, we're going to walk him in.
Straight to the right here. To the right. So how's everything going besides the obvious? Good. And my dog just had, 7 puppies. Actually 9, but I think 7 lived just 2 days ago. So for the first time in like a month, I found my groceries. So I couldn't wait to get out there tomorrow. So it was a good day.
Simpson admitted taking the items, which he said had been stolen from him.
I didn't mean to steal anything from anybody, and I didn't know I was doing anything illegal. I thought I was confronting friends. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry for all of it.
At various points in the trial, familiar faces, the Goldman family and former prosecutor Marcia Clark.
Verdict. We, the jury, in the above entitled case, find the defendant, Orenthal James Simpson, as follows. Count 1, conspiracy to commit a crime. Guilty. Count 2, conspiracy to commit kidnapping. Guilty.
On October 3, 2008, exactly 13 years after he was acquitted of the murders of Ron and Nicole, Simpson was found guilty of 12 charges and sentenced to 33 years in prison.
Count 5, the first-degree kidnapping with use of a deadly weapon, a fixed term of 15 years. Count 6, first-degree kidnapping with use of a deadly weapon, a fixed term of 15 years with...
Some believe the 33 years was symbolic of the money he owed to the Brown and Goldman families.
Mr. Simpson, I do vote to grant parole when eligible, and that will conclude this hearing.
9 years later, Simpson was granted parole.
So obviously there's no end for this story. This is always going to be something that fascinates people. But on the other hand, this whole thing has become a very real part of American history. And it doesn't matter how many times you hear the story, at the end it's always like, wow, it's so crazy that all that happened. But it did, and it happened here. Any questions?
Wow! Ooh, that was fantastic.
Thank you.
Wow.
Shut the car off.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Questions. Let me get my bearings. That was. As Nicole and Ron's body lay on the other side of this wall, no one could have guessed that their end would be the beginning of a story that forever changed us. The OJ Simpson saga had everything. Celebrities, racism, sexism, domestic abuse, money, police corruption, and a car chase around LA. It was a perfect storm that ushered in cameras in the courtroom and 24-hour news. At the heart of the story, there are 2 victims. Real people who often get left behind this wall. For those of you who believe Simpson is innocent, he'd agree with you. And for those who believe he got away with murder, remember, prison isn't always a physical space. This is Dead in Hollywood. Thanks for watching.
How do you think you will be remembered?
I mean, everybody is going to give their opinion. They're going to hypothesize he was guilty or he was purging his guilt. Whatever you want to take from it, I cannot control it. I'm done. Guys, I tried my best here. I'm done. No, we've done what I need to do.
Is it hard? Do you feel like spent?
No, it's just that this portion there, I love that girl. Yep, it hurts too. But it's what it is.
Did you see OJ?
Yeah.
Did you? Is he nervous? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think he's kind of, he has composure.
It's funny because I'm just so excited.
Dead in Hollywood.